Hi everyone, John Poker Chip Friedberg here with another episode of Stacking Chips, your strategy source for the 2007 World Series of Poker, the Bellagio Cup, and the dozens of other events going on right here in lovely Las Vegas. So Saturday's $1,500 No Limit Hold'em event was another record-breaking field. They got over 3,100 entrants, making it now the largest same-day starting event in poker history, making it the third largest overall tournament in poker history behind the 2006 main event and the 2005 main event. So that's cool. Poker is obviously growing. The tournament was, as I had suspected that day, was pretty much a donk fest. Lots and lots of players, lots of dead money, short starting stacks, and I was doing okay early, but I kept chipping up to a good amount and then losing a big race against an all-in player, and that would make me short, and then I would chip up again and again lose a race, and so that was sort of how my tournament went for me. And then ultimately, once again, I lost on the river, and this was one of those situations where there was a raise in front of me, and I'm on the button with pocket nines. I re-raise all in. It was fairly early. The blinds were like 1 in 200. I think there was a raise to like 600 or something, and the blinds were 150 and 300. Guy raises to 900, and I go all in for like 3,000. Other guy, the blind thinks forever before folding, and then the original raiser calls. He turns over ace-queen, I have pocket nines, and the guy in the blind who thought forever says, oh, I had ace-queen also. So right away I know that is, and every time somebody says that, it seems like the ace or the queen falls in that spot. Well, this time the ace or the queen didn't fall, but the flop was king, jack, blank, and of course 10 ball on the river to knock me out of the tournament. So I keep losing on the river to these hands that are, it's frustrating, but whatever, that's poker, that's how it goes. I'm having a good year overall in the World Series, and of course this year, so I really can't complain too much. And now it's just, we're at the final stretch coming up before the main event, which starts very soon, so I'm looking forward to that. I have, again, I've yet to cash in the main event in the last 3 years. I've played in 04, 05, and 06 with very little success. I made it to day 2 once, and that was in 04. So I'm looking for a breakthrough year here in the main event, and hopefully a very, very big score. So my guest today, I'm very excited to have him on the show. He just had a very deep finish in the $50,000 buy-in horse event, and he's an East Coast guy, big cash game player, has also done or played many of the big tournaments over the last few years. He's had a lot of recent success, including final tabling the Mirage World Poker Tour event, which I also final tabled. Of course, he finished a couple spots higher. He made the TV table, finishing in 6th place, and just last week finished 4th place in the $50,000 buy-in horse event for over $500,000. So let's bring him on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, Amnon Filippi. Amnon, thanks for coming on the show, man. Glad to have you here.
Nice to be here.
So you're just coming off a monster finish in the $50,000 buy-in horse event. You ended up taking 4th place for over $500,000.
Yep, that's exactly what happened.
Bittersweet, I imagine, but how do you feel overall? How'd the tournament go for you?
The first day went kind of slow. I had my first 2 days. I had really solid tables, nothing fancy. Just everyone was playing pretty solid poker. There was no tricky stuff going on. I felt pretty good after day 1. I think I finished day 1 with like 170,000, which was, we only lost about 14, 15 players, so I felt like I was in pretty good shape. Finished day 2 was chip leader, which felt really good. Being in a field of 150 of the best players in the world, and coming out on day 2 as chip leader, I felt really strong. The cards started falling my way on day 2. Every big hand I had held up. Hold'em's probably my weakest game of the 5 games, and I seemed to be able to pick up a big pair in those rounds, or ace-king in those rounds, and flop an ace or flop a king, and have the hand hold up. So, I had a pretty good outing day 2. And then just continue on as days go on.
Yeah, so I was following the event pretty closely, and you were chip leader for much of it. And if I remember right, you were chip leader or second going into the final table?
I was chip leader going into the final table. I had 4.4 million and some scraps. And Freddie Deeb had 3.5 million, so I felt good, and I had him to my right. So I know he's a pretty aggressive player, and being to his right, I knew I'd be in a good spot to make decisions, based on his play. They started off kind of slow. He took over the chip lead kind of fast. I lost a few small pots, and he took over the chip lead. But as they went on, I was stuck around 4 million, and Bruno Fatoussi seemed to have been just getting hit by the deck. Every hand he played, he made a hand, or he wound up winning somehow. And we were down to 5 players, and I still had around 4 million in chips, but I couldn't get anything to go right for me after that point. And when you're playing so big, you just not too many. You can't make too many mistakes, and you have to be able to pick up hands. And every time I seemed to pick up a hand, it was against the short stack for all in, and I'd make a wheel, or I'd make a monster hand against for no chips. So that's the way things go sometimes in poker.
So what did you think about the structure of that event? I heard a lot of people complaining about it. Did you think it was okay, or do they need to improve it for next year?
I didn't play last year, so I don't know if it really how it compared to last year. But I didn't find the structure to be too bad. You sit down to a table. Let's say you buy in a 4-800 game, and you sit down with 10,000. You really only have about 4 or 5 hands to play to make to lose before you're gonna have to rebuy. So in those circumstances, I think it wasn't such a bad structure. But being chip leader, I had a lot more mistakes to make than most people throughout most of the tournament. But just hands kept working out for me. Every time I played a hand, I started out with the best hand and I finished with the best hand, and hands were holding up. So the structure didn't really bother me. I did find it kind of torturous at the end. Actually, we're playing 30,000 ante and 30,000 bring in, and I was the bring in probably like 8 out of 10 hands, so it was costing me 60,000 a hand to play when it was costing everybody 30,000 a hand to play. So that kind of took a toll on me late in the tournament, and I could see where it would take a toll on anybody in that circumstance who was short stack. So for people to complain about it, I can understand, why they'd complain about it. But as you see, it still did take 5 days, and the final table did take till 7 o'clock in the morning. So as bad as they're saying the structure was, it still lasted the full amount of time that I was supposed to.
Wow, that happened last year also, where it went on till 8 or 9 or something last year. So they extended it to 5 days, and it looks like that didn't do too much.
Right.
So you mentioned that Hold'em is probably your weakest game of the 5.
Yeah.
Is that? Do you get a lot of experience playing in cash games? I know you're a big cash game player. Do you play a lot of mixed games? And do you think that's why you got so deep in the tournament, because you had such an edge in the other games, whereas other players are probably more strong in Hold'em?
Well, stud is my first game, and that's the game I played for probably my first 2.5 to 3 years of playing poker. So I did feel like I did have an advantage over most of the players, not obviously the whole field, but at the tables I was placed at over the course of the days, I did feel like when I did get to stud and Raz, I did have some of an advantage over over most of the table that I was at. Hold'em is my weakest game because I just don't like it at all. I've never concentrated on playing it, and I never have put in the time to play the game on a consistent basis. So I just couldn't wait to get out of the Hold'em rounds and get into the other games.
That's funny, because I think everyone else is probably looking forward to that Hold'em round.
Right.
The game that they're so comfortable with.
Right.
So how did you get started playing poker?
I played in a home game in New York. New York is famous for its after-hour clubs of poker and back alley clubs, as you'd call them. And I played with some friends in a home game, and one of the guys in the home game, a friend of mine named Boris, said, do you want to come to a club? So from Atlantic City, Tommy Wang had a few clubs in Queens, so I started going to the clubs. And in the clubs, they had 20-40 stud, and they had 10-20 Hold'em. So I'd play some 10-20 Hold'em when there was no stud seat available, but I was really there to play in the stud games. And from the stud games, I met a few people, and everyone was like, you want to go play in a tournament at the Taj? So I went to the Taj, and I played in my first stud tournament, and I came in 4th place in my first tournament. So, I kind of got hooked from there. And then I realized most of the money is really in No Limit Hold'em, so I switched my game over to No Limit Hold'em, but my first game has always been stud, and I've always enjoyed playing stud. Like, I'll still play whatever limits places have. Like, the Bellagio has 20-40, and I'll go play 20-40, and people ask me, what are you doing playing 20-40? And, it's not always about the money. It's also about having, a good time and enjoying yourself.
Yeah, well, 7-card stud has always sort of traditionally been a much more popular East Coast game than it is on the West Coast. I started playing about 13 years ago, and all the big games were Hold'em.
Right.
But I remember I went over to Atlantic City one year, and all the big games were stud.
Right.
So I think that's interesting that you being an East Coast player, you obviously have more of a background in stud. But you said you made the transition into No Limit Hold'em to play in these tournaments. You're having a tremendous year this year. You finished 6th place at the Mirage WPT event for cashing over 100,000, I think.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the 500 and something thousand you just made in the horse event. Have you changed your game at all, or do you feel like you're just running better this year, or what do you attribute your recent success to?
Well, my recent success I have to attribute to hanging around with J.C. Tran, Namely, and Tim Fan so much. You know, these guys, you know, have their accolades this year and last year have been, you know, as everyone knows, you know, great accomplishments. But from hearing them discuss hands and the way to start tournaments and finish tournaments and play deep into a tournament has helped my game a lot. I've just been playing a lot more solid, you know, really waiting for opportune time to pick on the bad players, you know, waiting for big hands and trying to make the most of them.
Well, it seems like it's going well for you so far. I think I'm going to have to give JC a call and see if I can hang out with him a little bit too. But no, I'm just kidding. No, JC, I mean, I see you guys a lot at all the tournaments, and you're a fun group of guys. Always fun to hang out with you guys and shoot the dice or, you know, playing some games or whatever. So how's the rest of the World Series going for you so far?
This year, actually, the last 2 years, I've only had one cash each year, and besides that, it's just been complete pitfalls. 2 years ago, I couldn't wait to get knocked out of a tournament to go play in the cash games because I was, you know, picking up $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a day playing in cash games. Last year, I decided I wasn't going to play so much cash games and concentrate on tournaments, but I just had the worst run of cards. Like I had set over set like 4 tournaments in a row. And I only had one cash last year and the year before that. So this year so far I've had 4 cashes already, and I've been feeling good. I knew I was, you know, so far Foxwoods I got knocked out, you know, 5 spots from the bubble. I ran 2 kings and 2 aces, you know, chip leader against second chip leader. I was the second chip leader. Then I came to the Bellagio for the 25K and I lost ace queen to king queen, all the money in pre-flop. So I've been, you know, playing really good. I felt really good. I went to the Mirage, and first level I was down to 2,500. I played a really big hand with Eric Seidel, and I just said to myself, you know, I know what just happened in Foxes. I know what just happened in Bellagio. You know, I can't go out like this, and I just buckled down, played really tight, and, you know, picked up a few hands, doubled up a few times, and I finished the first day with 44,000. Felt really strong about that. So I knew I was going to have a good World Series, and I'm really looking forward to the main event. Planning to do really well there too.
And what's next after the World Series? Are we going to see you at all the WPT events again?
I mean, I'm going to probably take some time off, go away on a trip with my fiance, and then I'm probably going to, you know, jump back into the saddle and go to the bicycle club.
All right, well, I will see you there. Amnon, thanks again for coming on the show. It was great to have you. Best of luck in the rest of the World Series.
Thank you.
All right, well, that's it for today's episode of Stacking Chips. Make sure to tune in tomorrow and every day throughout the World Series for more strategy talk, discussion, interviews, and more right here on Card Player TV. And keep those emails coming in to stackingchips@cardplayer.com. From John Poker Trip Friedberg
and Amnon Filippi,
we're out of here. Good luck, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Take it easy.